The Hilltop Glove Podcast is sponsored by Mid-Carolina Service Company.
Mid-Carolina Service Company is the first name to search for your residential or commercial HVAC needs in Lexington and surrounding areas.
Just go holler at Jason and Clint. They'll hook you up on the air conditioners, on the restaurant equipment, refrigerators, refrigeration, ice machine repair. They've been doing this for years. I know them cats forever.
Family owned and operated since 2006, they pride themselves in their quality work and customer relationships. Call 803-356-4153 or visit midcarolinaserviceco.com for a no obligation quote for service today.
The Hilltop Glove Podcast is sponsored by True Brilliance Entertainment.
True Brilliance is a production, promotions, and management company dedicated to connecting artists and producers across the Carolinas to music industry professionals.
Several of their clients have placements both domestic and internationally as a result of their services.
Are you an artist or producer looking to build meaningful relationships within the music industry? Then True Brilliance is for you. Check them out at paramilitary.com. That's spelled P-A-I-R-A military.com.
This episode of the Hilltop Glove Podcast is sponsored by Bob's. Bob's is a Columbia-based retailer of over 100 Black-owned products from 20 Black-owned businesses. Bob's offers a wide range of items from household cleaning, cosmetics, and everything in between. With every visit to Bob's, you support Black-owned businesses, giving them the opportunity to grow and establish connections with our community. Bob's is located inside the Noma warehouse at 2222 Sumter Street in Columbia, South Carolina. Visit their website, weshopbobs.com for in-store pickup or to find out more. Bob's can also be found via social media on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at weshopbobs. When you stop by, tell them the Hilltop Glove sent you. Bob's brings quality Black brands to the Columbia community. The Hilltop Glove Podcast is sponsored by Red Rooster Sports Bar and Grill. Red Rooster is your neighborhood bar and grill serving the best wings, burgers, and baskets in the Met.
Like the amazing food, the bar is always on tap, and there's plenty of screens to watch the big game. Red Rooster is the Midland's premier meetup spot for local car and bike clubs, fraternities, and sororities.
Staff is dedicated to accommodating all kinds of parties and events. If you're looking to catch a game, have a bite, and a drink, look no further than the Red Rooster.
Red Rooster is located at 7500 Wilson Boulevard, Columbia, South Carolina. For more information, visit redroostersportsbar.com or visit them on Facebook and Instagram at Red Rooster Sports Bar. Go where the winners go.
Welcome to the Hilltop Glove Podcast.
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 Welcome to the Hilltop Glove Podcast, where Skip and DJ Amwut interview guests and discuss topics such as business, current events, and pop culture. The motivational podcast for the hip-hop millennial.
All right, good day, everybody. Welcome to the premiere episode of the Hilltop Glove Podcast. My name is DJ Amwut. I'm 1/3 of the podcast crew. I'll be hosting today with my brother, Mr. Skip. And also,
yes, sir.
Hopefully going into the future, we'll be able to talk with and have our man, Mr. Mike, up in the house as well. But today, our first guest is going to be Mr. Eric Tyndall, a.k.a. Kinetic Life. He's going to be here discussing some things going on in his life, effects of the current situation that we're dealing with in the world, how that affects his lifestyle and his work, basically. And then we'll ask him some fun things and see what's going on in his world. Just to start out with Mr. Kinetic Life, if you could just give us a quick synopsis on what you do, where you're from, or any other details you may want to add so that the people can know some things about you before we start.
Well, like I said, I go by the name of Kinetic Life. That's I guess my music name or producer name. But yeah, I'm a music producer, DJ. I'm a K-12 special needs teacher. Teaching as a certified teacher for about a year now. It's been a year this month, actually. Been working for a school district roughly about 12 years. all together. So
There we go. There
that's
we
me
go.
right now.
Hey, that's the real talk. That's real talk. All right, just want to make sure everything is moving smoothly. All right, so that people can know some things about you. Because I know, we've been up here, even though technically we know who you are. I've been up here acting like a creeper and going on all your pages, just checking your background information and seeing about how I can get
Stalker mode.
some of these
Stalker mode.
these beat packages from you, bruh. You know, I see beat packages up there, so I want people to know about those things because I know you do have a website at airbit.com. And we'll make sure to put that information and those links in the podcast too, in the information below, so that they can see how to get at those things, because those are the outside things you do outside of your 9 to 5. But just in the season of things, man, my first question for you today is going to be dealing with the pandemic. And like I said, back in the real world, before we had to deal with all this crazy stuff going on, your 9 to 5, man, what inspired you to go into special education, and what was your path and your journey to getting there?
I think really for me, man, is I fell into special ed by accident, or rather maybe it's been a calling. You know, originally when I was in high school, I wanted to go in the military, but my dad was like, get your education first, blah, blah, blah. You know how that goes.
Yep.
And so I was like, all right. But I found a scholarship that's geared towards elementary ed. So registered for Kinetic College, got accepted. I got inducted into the Call Me Mister program. That began my path with elementary ed. And then during that school time, I took a year off and came back. And then I took some classes with special needs, as far as like abnormal psychology. It was one of the classes I took. And I actually enjoyed it, man. So that's one of the classes I love, just figuring out about, a human's mind, not necessarily just a special needs mind, but a normal person's mind as well. And so beyond that, when I graduated, I worked in retail for a little while, of course, doing my music at the same time. Mm-hmm. And then I ended up working in Richmond School District 1 as a sub, and they hired me full time. Coincidentally, also, that was in a special needs area. So my first part of my 12 years, I've done that as an instructional assistant, as a therapeutic assistant for a couple of years. And then I just love special needs so much. It's always something different, from day to day, as opposed to being in a general ed class. You kind of got the same thing, how everything's going to your lessons and stuff like that. And then students throw something in the mix. But special needs is always something different. You got to be extremely flexible for that. So that's how I ended up teaching special needs, because I just wanted to be certified in that area. I feel like that's where my passion's at. I think that's what God led me to do. No,
seriously, that's what it seems like. Like literally, it didn't matter what you want to do, you was gonna get there.
I just want to do other things. Of course, I had those dreams of just working in music full time and stuff like that. But when you look at your bank account, you gotta be realistic.
That's part of what this podcast is about, man. We got to adult, and when you be an adult, and you got to do things you got to do.
Hey, being an adult sucks, man, but you got to do it if you want to grow and just be something other than just not growing.
Exactly.
So yeah, like I said, I think God led me to where I'm at now. Like I said, I enjoy it every day. I teach K through 2 at an elementary school, and from day one, I love it, and I love it more so than when I first started. Even with the pandemic, I still love what I do.
Speaking of the pandemic, man, and being in the classroom, are you in the classroom or are you still remote at the moment? It's now December. Has any of that stuff changed?
So right now, I'm teaching in the class, and I still got 2 kids virtual. I got a total of 8 kids, 9 kids, and so the majority of them come to class. Of course, I'm there 5 days a week, but my students in the class, they come Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Fridays. Okay. And so Wednesday is like what they call a flex day. That's basically the day I take care of paperwork, have my office hours and stuff like that. And then, of course, I got 2 that are virtual throughout the day. Now, before then, everyone was virtual up until I think it was around October, September time. Okay. So I was doing everything from school. I still had to go to school, but they were at home. They was at home.
Okay. And were the other students at the school, the non-special ed students?
No.
All right. Okay.
No, they're in now, but the special needs kids were the first one. Actually, I think in the state of South Carolina to get back into school during the pandemic.
That's a good.
So I know for sure in our district, and I know for sure in my particular school, they special ed was the first ones to go in.
Okay, 'cause that's a good point because on that same note, I know special needs students, they have, like you said, it's a different something different every day. It's not the same monotony that you
Mhm.
get with normal educational tracks. And also with
Right.
that, there are certain acts that they do have. Your Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, Free and
Yeah.
Appropriate Public Education Act, and the Individualized Educational Programs, where you have to give certain type of services. And I know this is a big thing,
Yeah.
especially over the summer before we even got back into the school year that was being discussed because of the pandemic. The fact of how do we
Yeah.
make sure those students with special needs get the proper instruction and also therapeutics. I like the point that you brought up the fact about the therapeutics behind it too, because the
Mhm.
therapy is a big part of their education. And how would you see, have you seen any drop offs or any, I guess, setbacks because of the pandemic dealing with special needs students and them receiving the therapy as well as the education?
It's kind of hard to say because it's basically from teacher to teacher.
Yeah.
In my particular school, we got 3 special ed teachers, and then we have those, like you said, those occupational therapists and things like that.
Mhm.
Now, the thing is, like you said before, is that it's all about the legalities of it. It's not necessarily how many days the kids are in school. It's just are they meeting their goals and stuff like that. So that's one thing we had to ensure, and that's the reason why we came back so early as opposed to general ed students. But I think it depends on the individual teacher, how much work they're willing to put in. Also, the parents to reinforce that for the students to meet the goals and stuff like that. So I can't really say, but me personally, I know there's been times that I had to do the impossible to make sure kids' goals are met.
Yeah,
Um,
that's what I was
and,
wondering.
and include like working after hours or getting on my occupation therapist, like, hey, you need to put in this 30 minutes this week,
Yeah,
that type of thing, or rescheduling things so kids can get it all at once or individually.
gotcha.
So,
Well, I'm telling you like this, man. Bravo for that extra work because I know that's not easy to do right now. It throws a little pressure on you. But like you said, you're
yeah,
trying to meet those legal
goals.
standards, and like I said, there's things that we know
Yeah,
that those students need. So, man,
yeah.
bravo on that because I know it's not easy right now, not in this situation. This really does make you like an essential worker. It really is. You are an essential worker for those students, and to allow make sure that they're
Yeah.
getting their needs met. Do you ever have conversations with their parents about how they're doing and how you all have affected their ability to learn and progress?
Yeah, that's one thing I do. I actually bring it up to the parents before they start questioning my job and how good I'm doing.
Hmm.
And as far as meeting their goals too, I'm ensuring them that the kids are going to meet their goals no matter what. And that's just pretty much it.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. I was wondering if
But
there was that banter.
yeah, the communication is ongoing. Just like we try to stick to the normal school year as much as possible, as far as like interim reports and then PTA and stuff like that.
Okay,
But I think me personally, I make it a habit to talk to the parents at least once or twice a week just to give updates. Because also you're talking about social and emotional health.
exactly.
How the kids been doing the past 2 or 3 days as opposed to 2 or 3 days last week.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So me, I'm able to kind of gauge what the child's going through. You know what I'm saying? If something happens at home, the temperament of the child changes.
True.
So sometimes you can pick that up doing just talking with the parents and stuff like that. And sometimes they'll mention it, sometimes they don't. Or sometimes the kid will mention it and the parents kind of like keep it under touch, depending on what it is.
Mm.
So I try to keep accountable of how hard I push them,
Yeah.
I guess, on learning and stuff like that. So, I don't want to put too much pressure on them. I remember I had one parent that said, well, the kid is getting frustrated. And it was what it is I had a first grader and I was giving them first grade math, of course. And I had to downsize the scale. That's the amount of much work that I gave them.
Got it.
So,
Speaking of making sure they're getting their programs met and having the infrastructure available to make sure you're handling your business properly, have you felt safe being in the classroom right now? Because here's the thing: the cool thing is, I know you told me your class size. You don't have a large class size,
yeah.
which is really good, especially for special needs students, so that they can make sure that they're keeping certain safety standards. Have you felt safe at the school?
Yeah.
Have you felt like there was anything going on that make you feel unsafe?
Well, see, that's the thing that we don't know where the virus is at. I can't just point and say, "Hey, it's over there, over there." That's just the thing. So, personally, no. To be honest, I don't feel safe all the time. Two, that's one of the reasons why, like I said earlier, that's why I keep my anxiety down. You know what I'm saying? Like, I try to not think of the worst that could happen. I know it's kind of crazy,
Yeah.
but I'm just thinking, like I said, I think it's a caller. I got a job to do. And my principal asked me this a couple of times more than once, like, how you feeling? How you doing? Or how you feeling about, X, Y, Z? I was like, I've been called to do a job. It's kind of like if you're in the military, you expect to go to war during wartime.
True.
That's how I kind of see it. So, but in hindsight, it's safe, but it's kind of unsafe. Because you're talking about little kids; they're not going to wear the mask all day.
I know. This is what I was wondering about. Yeah.
I knew that early on. So I got tons of sanitizer. I got my custodial staff that comes through, not mine, but custodial staff come through like 2 or 3 times a day. They're wiping and cleaning constantly. I got sanitizers all over the classroom and stuff like that. So I got little kids, so I got to physically clean them sometimes.
Right,
or,
exactly.
I physically clean them, stuff like that. So try to keep it safe as possible, and I try to keep traffic in there limited.
Hey,
that's it.
So you're like, you really have to keep control of your area, right?
Yeah, it's really controlling your environment.
Okay.
That's what it is.
Okay, because I know. Go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, one question I kind of want to add on to, especially on the topic of safety. Just a few days ago, there was the teacher out at Lexington 1 who passed away. And I know there was a teacher out at Richland 1 that passed. I know it was at Richland 1, Richland 2 that passed. I think it was Richland 2 that passed. It was, okay. And I was wondering, is there like any talk right now, just within the teaching community right now, in regards to safety, especially because they've had 2 districts have already had like de facto strikes recently. So what's been happening? Yeah, with that.
Well, the conversation is real heavy. Like I know a couple of teachers that's been exposed or that's been positive. There's been some adult staff at my school that's been sent home for 14 days of quarantine, and just to kind of make it more intricate, I had a student that's got sent home as well. It's been a 14-day quarantine. So like I said, you can't see it. You can't say, "Hey, it's over there," and stuff like that. But it's here, obviously. But the talks are the things that everybody is just kind of like, we need to sit home, we need to do this at home, stuff like that. But according to the state, like we still got a job to do. Yeah. I don't want to say who says what, about that, but that's kind of like the narrative on both sides.
Especially in your situation, because literally, like, you're basically being mandated, like you have to provide a specific service for the special needs students. Yeah. It's unlike, like, you could do a virtual school or some kind of flex stuff for non-special needs students. It may be a little difficult, but they could work through it. But special needs students, they said they need that therapy too that goes along with the educational portion, and that's important. Yeah, most of them they need that hands-on work, and like I said, I make sure I do my job. Like I said, I think like I said, a call it, I'm protected. You know what I'm saying? God willing. But I'm not stupid. I'll tell you that. So, I just make sure the job is done, and if one of those days I'm not feeling it, I'm going to take a day off, with or without pay. And that's just to keep my anxiety down, because in retrospect, I'm a leader in there, so everything's going to fall on me or trickle down effect. My attitude is going to trickle down to everybody else who's involved with that classroom. And that goes for my assistant, all the students and the parents and stuff like that. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. Okay, I guess this is the last question on this topic, but from the close of school last year to the beginning of the school year in the fall, was there less or was there more anxiety? Like, did you close down last year with less anxiety than you did opening up this year?
I think for me, it was more confusion.
Oh, no.
And I'm going to tell you this. I think the reason why, because I was a brand new teacher. I got hired in
that's
December.
what I was wondering, yeah.
And so everything is brand spanking new to me as far as like doing the paperwork, make sure the IEPs are straight, having the IEP meeting, which is a beast by itself, and then report it to my consultant, my principals, and the parents and stuff like that. So when we went through this transition at the end of the year, we had to do what is called like a contingency plan to make sure everybody's covered as far as like the things we can do and what we can't do as far as teaching at home and in the school. We did that ahead of time. On top of that, we have what's it called, a closeout of the end of the year for the students. Meaning, like, we got to wrap up with transportation, make sure those legal documents are straight, making sure that the number of hours this kid's been taught is straight, and just dealing with those type of things at the end of the year. That's why I say everything was kind of like slammed on me, because I was new to this. And trust and believe, my consultant's been like up my butt the whole time. Like, you need to get this done. And plus, I'm expected still to teach the lessons. Majority of my kids, their IEP meetings are at the end of the year, like in March, April, and May, and June, and I still had to carry those on too. So But so that's why I say it was a confusion early on. Of course, like July and August, everything was kind of winding down. And then like back in August, that's when that anxiety came up. It's like, what am I gonna do
about that?
Not necessarily being scared of the virus itself, but just kind of like, okay, so can I keep up with what needs to happen?
Because it's like such a large plate.
Yeah. And by the way, I got a new consultant in the middle of that too.
Shoo.
So,
gosh, okay.
and these are district level people who are constantly calling me like, "Have you done this? Well, why don't you do this? How about you do this? And if you need anything from me, that goes on while I'm, throughout the day."
So, but do they give you necessary assistance when? All right.
Yeah. Here's the thing is that they'll give you everything you need as long as, it makes sense, or they'll give you overage of things that they feel like you need, stuff like that. One of the things I've been pitching for since when I first got hired is in my classroom, legally, I'm supposed to have 2 assistants in there. I only had 1 because some debacle they had before I got there. And so I guess the principal, they're not aware of what, I guess, as far as how many assistants need to be in the classroom. I was like, hey, this needs to happen. So she pitched for it. And we're still working on that right now, 10 months later. But it's stuff like that. They'll vouch for stuff that I need. Like I said, I got district level people that can call on for certain resources and stuff like that. And then there's, in the school, there's certain resources I can call on. And the good thing is that my coworkers, they're very helpful. They don't understand everything that's going on, but they're still like, what do I need to do? That type of thing.
Good. We're going to kind of change gears a little bit. And I notice one of the things that you said when you were just kind of explaining just your job is, especially with what's going on right now, it's a lot of anxiety, not just the pressure of, but just everything going on with COVID. But one of the things I want to switch gears on is just from things that you utilize for your personal interests. Have you ever utilized any of those things in the classroom?
Oh, all the time.
Okay.
Like one of my one of the things we're required to do is incorporate social and emotional health. Mm-hmm. So of course I got little kids. So the one thing I want them to do is express themselves and how they're feeling. Mm-hmm. Like say, for instance, if a kid is upset about something, somebody needs to know we don't need for you to be crying. I mean, it's okay to cry, but you need to come out and tell us what's wrong. So, but I think that's a lot of things with adults, like even me personally, is that, we'll be mad about stuff and don't know what we're really mad about. So one of the things that I do, that I teach my kids, that I do myself, is actually tell somebody, what's going on personally with me. You know what I'm saying? I think that helped a lot.
Good. I guess the next day we want to get into, because I know one of the things brought up earlier was the boxing. I know that's like a really big thing for you, as far as like relieving stress, anxiety, that type of thing. It also keeps you in good shape and stuff. So is that something that you're still pursuing now? Are you still involved with?
I do it not as much, just because the fact that I don't want to be, me personally, I don't want to come in contact with too many people. That's first and foremost. So I did utilize a trainer, and I still go every now and then. But it do relieve a whole lot of stress. It makes me sleep better at night. So you can imagine those days when you just want to let it all loose on the floor, and that's what you're going to do that day. But also, I love boxing for the fact that it's a thinking sport.
It is.
You know what I'm saying?
It's chess with your hands.
You can't just go out there and be a wild. You can't go out there and just be a wild animal. Make sure that, first of all, that you don't injure yourself. Too is we want to work on certain muscles and stuff like that. You want to do it the right way. That's why, I use a trainer, and so I can make sure I'm sharp mentally and physically at the same time.
Speaking of it being a thinking person's sport, last week we had somebody who wasn't thinking about boxing like that and thought that they could just play boxing. And this is some fun stuff to talk about, but just the Nate Robinson and Jake Paul fight, because I know Mike Tyson and Roy Jones Jr., that was the head of the cards. They actually had some real fights that day, too, for actual belts, too. But the Mike Tyson and Roy Jones Jr. fight, I mean, it garnered a lot of attention and stuff like that. Mike Tyson and Roy, they fought, they quote-unquote called it a draw, but in my opinion, Mike Tyson actually won that. He landed the most punches. He had a high percentage. I mean, he looked the best. He looked the best in that fight. I know you had to see Nate Robinson get his behind knocked out by Jake Paul. You had to see. How did you feel about that? Because, like you said, talking about boxing, like people not taking it, they don't take it seriously. He thought he could just go in there and play boxing. You can't do that.
Look, but boxing was one of those sports, man. You got to be in incredible shape. Like, there's no, either you're in shape for it or you're not. And so, I don't know. First of all, when did they
Yo, 3 months ago. 3 months.
So I know I've been doing this for like 2 years now, and I know I'm nowhere near to be stepping in nobody's pro-am ring. And so I'm just looking at, I didn't see the whole thing. I was looking at clips. And it's this whole, and I don't want to get so technical, but this whole stance is like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm just going to try to survive these.
That's why I wanted to hear from you. Like, what did it look like to you that he was trying to do?
It just looked like somebody say, hey, man, for $1 million, why don't you do this? And he's like, all right, cool. Let me just get trained up real quick. Which ain't long. I'm going to tell you now.
But you do know that they did not fight for $1 million. You know how much money they made off that fight?
It's like $60K or something like that, right?
No, $600.
$600, bro?
I could have gave you $600, Nate.
So he probably could have got. I mean, that's the definition of.
That's what I was wondering.
Right there.
Like, because he like literally was setting himself up to be hit in the back of the head, and he was.
It was just weird. It was, like I said, no stand. Like, he just got out there and said, "Hey, I feel like boxing." And I don't know too much about the Jake guy either, but I've heard he's been
training and fighting in an amateur level, pro-am level for the last year, man. That's why when I saw that come up, I was just like, okay, what is he trying to get from this? And like you said, I think it was just clout chasing. Like, he went out there and got his behind whooped. He got sat on his forehead because literally he got knocked out on his forehead, and he got his clout chasing on. Now, I will tell you, they were teasing because they said he was feeling bad because, he had LeBron James and Stephen Curry and them going and laughing at him on social media. I think that really did hurt his feelings. But he should have known what he was getting into. These are real fights. Like, all of those fights that were on those cards were real fights, except for that one. So he should have known something was up. That's the thing that I did not get. I would not want to get my behind whooped.
Yeah. Like I said, boxing is one of those, and I only think of a few sports like hockey, that physical contact, MMA fighting, and stuff like that. Like, you're in it to be a beast or an animal, or you're not. But you got to be smart about it. It's not something I can jump in and do next week and think I'm going to be a master at it.
Now, that's what I saw. It was so disrespectful to the sport of boxing. The fact that he thought he could just get in there and literally stand toe to toe with somebody. I know they were teasing about the fact, just like his reach and everything. Like, he didn't think about any of these things before taking the fight. None of that stuff.
No. I mean, he was like his feet forward, like, what I'm saying, just kind of vertical instead of
no, seriously. He was walking right into the punches. Like, he was walking.
But at that point, he probably he didn't. He was out of his
had
mind.
me, man, because it looked like he wanted to get knocked out. He just kept running up into the man's right and his left, like that straight. When it hit him, I was like, okay, it was going to be there. It's going to be waiting for you, sir. We kept running into it.
Yeah, and see, like, I got hit in my stomach and I got hit in my face a few times. I mean, like Mike Tyson said, everybody has the plan until you get punched in the mouth.
Yep.
That really happened. That really happened. Like, you don't have a plan. Like, okay, shit, I'm gonna do this. After that, and you really don't have time to think in boxing. But it was. I think it was just, boxing has a little bit of, I don't know what to call it, like circus acting a little bit, just a little bit. But I didn't realize that it was going to be. Yeah, like
it was
this,
worse than It was worse than what was going on with Mayweather and Conor McGregor. It made that look like a good fight.
Yeah, I was about to say it reminds me of. Remember back in the day with Celebrity Deathmatch?
It was like live action.
That's what it reminds me of. Yeah.
Real talk. And speaking of which, I know Floyd Mayweather now, because of that, he's actually going to take a fight with Jake Paul's brother now. Just because I think they pulled so many views in. That's why I was like, man, they didn't even make any money off of it. But they bought so many views in that now they're going to continue this little facade of these fights. And it was so weird because I know we discussed this pre-show, but there was a real fight last week that people should have been watching, which was the Errol Spence Jr. fight versus Danny Garcia. And those are two formidable fighters, man. Errol Spence coming back off of that car accident from last year. That brother was in shape. He came ready to perform, and he did his job. I mean, it was a technical class in boxing properly, coming back from a major injury. and he did well, and he won his bout. But yeah, man, this is interesting because I love boxing.
Right.
I know many people don't. I mean, MMA has taken almost everything over, but I'm still a boxing enthusiast. I like watching the people get in a square circle and handle their business. So
yeah, I haven't been following the new cats too much. I know Shakur Stevenson, he's like one of my favorite of the new guys. But I don't catch him every weekend or whatever. I think I just look at
follow because, like I said, it's where the sport is too. Like it's not. It's like I said, I hate to say it, but MMA is it's picking up because you can have so many fighters, you can move through quick. The rounds are fast. You don't have much. You don't have to put much money into it to get a draw. Because in boxing, you got to put money into it. You got to pick it. You really do have to invest into the sport in order to see a return, whether or not you're a promoter or a fighter. So it's a little different.
But that goes like with any industry, like boxing turned into like a more or less a political thing too. You know what I'm saying? I won't fight this person because he's not good enough, or I won't fight this person because it might make me look bad because I'm fighting under my, under my level or whatever. So it turns to that so much that everybody's now become like a diva a little bit, So as opposed to like MMA, people want to fight. It's just like the music industry. Like, I don't want to do a collab with this person because you only have a certain amount of streams, and I'm over here making money, and you worry about streams, or just stuff like that, whatever. Yeah, so, but I think like boxing is always going to be a sport. Like golf is always going to make money. It's an expensive sport first and foremost, and there's always something that's going on, whether it's locally or on a national level somewhere. About boxing, it's one of those things like a legendary sport.
It's not going to die. So, it's just not going to be in the forefront. But
yeah, and I think it changes just like the music industry. It changes when the new kids come in. So it's based on their popularity, not necessarily ours or the people that came before us. So whatever they like, that's how the game changes.
Yeah, it's true. It's very true. With that being said, man, I know I hate to wrap stuff up, but we've had so much work today just to get this episode out, which is, the story behind this episode. That's that actual story. Real talk.
That's the actual story.
Yes, you got to apologize just because, we could have, I don't know, get it right.
Yeah, I know, man. I know. We appreciate your assistance today. If people want to find out more about, like I said, what it is you do, like the different projects you're into, as far as like with music and even just stuff related to that, where would they find you or how can they reach out to you?
Right now, the only social media thing I'm doing, I'm pushing all my stuff is on Facebook. Of course, that's just Eric Tyndall. That's where I'm pushing most of my beat tapes that I'm coming out with, or, the music that I'm dealing with, Beacon, stuff like that. I post clips and pictures from that all the time. So that's what I'm utilizing right now. I'm kind of using that as my major platform. That's about it, man. Like you'll see my links all there right now because I know it takes a lot when you got multiple things going on. So I don't want to push myself too much. Me and the fact that during this pandemic, I'm working. And sometimes I work after work with work.
Work continues.
So I got to minimize certain things and make other things happen. So everything's through Facebook, Eric Tyndall right now. And of course, if you want to go strictly to my music page, is Airbit/KineticLife.com. And then I got a SoundCloud. I still utilize that. So that's KineticLife.com. Everything's Kinetic Life on that aspect. 2021 will be the relaunch of Beacon, hopefully like in February and March. So, of course, that's beacon.net for those updates. And that's pretty much it, man.
Okay, good.
I'm dropping a beat tape in the next couple of days. I'm not, you're kind of like, okay, you got it together. You're trying to figure out a launch date for it. Mm-hmm. So that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at with that. Because I know I got tons more to put out after this.
We'll make sure to post all that information. Links and etc. below the episode when that goes up, just so that way they can get to it quick. And we have other references and stuff from the show, a little bit of research that we did on the things that we talked about as well. We'll post those things as well below in links. So we'll have all that stuff together for folks checking out the show.
Sounds good. Well, like I said, man, it was definitely an honor to have you on our pilot episode, E. Of course.
Appreciate it,
no doubt, man.
Yeah,
man. And we can have you back on. Man, they done stepped it up this time. Like, man, it's like from everything, son.
I'm a creative, man, so I love when things start up. I always want to be a part of that, Of course, this time I'm actually guessing, not part of the technical side. So I'm still cool with it. And like I said, I love to see things grow, man. That's just what I like doing for
it. That's what I'm talking about.
Word. Well, like I said, this is Skip and
DJ and what?
And until next time, stay up.
That's it for today's episode of the Hilltop Glove Podcast. Make sure to subscribe to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. Also, follow us on Instagram and Facebook at THG Podcast.
That's it for today's episode of the Hilltop Glove Podcast. Make sure to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and other platforms. Also follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Hilltop Glove.